I shall try.
All right, and welcome everyone to the Women's Empower Network. I am so excited to have Sadaf, is that right?
Yeah,
Here today
Sadaf.
with us. And she's going to share a little bit about who she is and her story and how she came to be doing what she's doing and why she's so passionate about it. So welcome, Sadaf.
Thanks, Jenny, for this opportunity. Really excited. And glad that I could share a bit of my journey. And I'm sure a lot of you out there would relate to it in some form or the other. Just a bit about myself. I'm originally from Pakistan, but I'm based in London. I moved here 10 years ago because my job kind of sent me over here. So it was just me and my husband who moved here. Now I have a son as well. So busy with that. I had a hardcore corporate life. I'm a marketer, a career marketer. I was working in a really good organization by the name of Unilever. That's where I grew up, I would say, learned about leadership, met so many different people. And I think moving to London was another interesting chapter because I got exposure to such diverse people. And London itself is a very multicultural, but the organization itself is also so multicultural that you really have to keep flexing as a person and discovering a different side of you as a leader. So, towards the end of my role in that organization, I kind of was asking myself those questions. And I think when you reach that golden age of 40, I, you start asking those big questions itself. And I was noticing a lot around. Um, if I'm doing a meeting around hardcore marketing, what is happening to my energy level? And if I'm having a conversation about people, their development, and their growth, what is happening to my energy level? And I could see a difference. And I was enjoying the people conversations far more. And it was a bit of a secret to my own self. Because everybody would crib about it and I would be like, hey, oh, I felt quite excited about those conversations. And I really, and coaching as a terminology would thrown around in organizations that are why not we become coaches and etc. That's a conversation that people would have. And so when my son was born, I wanted to kind of get into a situation of flexibility, having my own rules, discovering that side of myself, all those things. Of course, now he rules over everything, but for the sake of argument, I would like to assume I'm free now. um, so then I wanted to understand the world of coaching, but I also didn't want to let go of my corporate experience. So I stumbled across executive coaching. And I took up the executive coaching program. It was a 1 year process. I got the accreditation for it from Association of Coaching itself, and I wanted to give it the respect that it deserves. Not like something happened to my life, so now I'm a coach. I wanted to kind of understand it properly. Um, and there was a lot of obviously conversation around what's your niche, and you have to define it as a coach. And that's like, oh my God. And it almost turned into a big marketing project. So I had to kind of start using the same conversation I used to have in my company in this case as well, that, okay, who am I going to target with coaching? Because it has to be a niche. And when I started talking to different clients and coaches, um, by coincidence or whatnot, a lot of introverts were facing a certain set of problems, which were quite familiar to me because I'm also an introvert and I could relate to it. And and as an introvert, when you enter an organization which is extremely extroverted in nature, because marketing led organizations usually are, um, then you kind of keep on changing yourself, forcing to be someone that you might not be, feeling uncomfortable. And those thoughts can never leave you because you know that in what moments you tried to be someone you're not. And
Yep.
I could see that those coaches were going through those similar moments. And coaching itself provides such a safe space for them because there are no judgments, it's their space. And really, coaching an introvert is such a delight because they come prepared. They're deep thinkers. They really want to get the homework, like they really want to show up. And they have so many strengths, but when they face those leadership challenges in an extroverted environment, they sometimes don't know how to use those strengths to their advantage. They think it's a handicap. They feel that, oh, I can't do small talk, which means I can't do the networking I need to get the visibility in the organization. So I really wanted to kind of change that narrative around, and allow them to embrace who they are and respect the value system they have, help them discover it and stay true to it, and hence stay authentic. So that's the journey I like to focus on, with my coaches. So that's how I created this little company called Quiet Thrivers, for introverted leaders. Nothing specific on male or female. It could be anybody. Whoever is introverted, they can join, and go through the coaching program. So that's a little bit around my journey and how I've come here. And then I came across Women's Empower Network. And I really, Ginny, your talk, I think it was somewhere in the wild. I don't know, there was a forest or waterfalls or something in the river. And I was like, oh, there were some elements in there related to finding your purpose and vision and your why that really resonated with me. Obviously, my ears kind of went up when you said you're an introvert. I was like, oh, note it down. Jane is an introvert. So
I
yeah,
know seeing me online, you wouldn't know that,
yeah,
you know,
no, yeah, yeah,
but at the same time, as an introvert, I love one-on-one conversations. Don't put me in a large room with a lot of people. I'll become a wallflower.
yeah, same here.
Right? So,
Same here.
I really appreciate that. And I don't know if you know who Dean Graciosis, I think is. He's always talking about being an introvert, but he's all like bigger than life and rah rah and everything. And I'm like, really?
Are you sure?
Yeah. You're having trouble convincing me.
Yeah, yeah. No, and that's the bit. It's I ask myself as well the same question. The moments where I'm comfortable talking, like this kind of a moment, I'm comfortable talking. I'm ignoring the fact that this is going live and a lot of people might be viewing it.
Me
Um,
too.
yeah, which is fine. Let's forget about that.
Right?
But yeah, I walking into a room, it's still a struggle after so many years. I still have to look for the familiar ones. Still look for that cozy spot, and which is okay. I think that's what it is. We just need the time to absorb our environment because we tend to get slightly more overstimulated, and we just need a bit of a breather. And I've seen these networking, obviously now that I have my own little thing happening and these networking events, and I'm sure you must have noticed this as well, Ginny, that if you're just standing in the corner even for 1 minute, somebody will catch you and come to you in these networking events. So just, it's okay. You don't have to force yourself. um, and what I really appreciate about small talk is I understand that everybody knows small talk is small talk. It doesn't have to be profound. um, and it's funny how so many of my coaches and clients, they end up saying this, that I just can't do small talk because I want to talk about deep things like life and death and purpose and whatever. And that will freak the other person out. And as like, I get your vibe. I understand I'm there. But you just have to take it a bit easy. Not everybody's going to resonate with it. That, okay, fine, So, um, hence I wanted to kind of sharpen my proposition and my niche around introverted people because I think they need a bit of confidence in accepting who they are. And also, b- I want to kind of break. the toxicity that sometimes sits in organizations because people are simply misunderstood. And I've seen so many times when coaching, there have been interventions in developing somebody as a leader. But sometimes, a lot of times, coaching is given to somebody who's a troublemaker, you know?
No, tell me more about that.
I've seen in companies that coaching is sometimes reserved for either the most senior person in the organization, or somebody who is not performing well. And those are two extremes, simply because I think companies are trying to get the maximum from the investment that they put into people, that let's help the troublemaker and let's further help the CEO, you know, like to improve the shareholders expectations. But then there is that mid-tier leader who's just about to get promoted or who's recently promoted, and I think that's that moment where you are trying to figure out who you are, what type of a leader you are, and if you get it wrong, then it stays with you for a long time. And then it starts, people under you are unhappy, people above you are forcing you to be someone you're not finding the courage to say it. You think if you show courage, then you're being vulnerable, and maybe that's a bad thing. So but anyway, but thank God for Brene Brown, who has told us that that's okay. You can be vulnerable, that's a sign of being courageous. So I think that narrative is shifting now, and I kind of want to uh, help my coaches to get to that and get the support they need to stay authentic, as well. And that's also an angle, because sometimes, authenticity is also misunderstood. that's a that's a very tricky area, because if you are a bully and you're just being yourself, then we have a problem. Um so I think that's where the coach comes in, to call out bad behavior or challenge them on, and I think keep asking them questions on how does their behavior impact people under them, because sometimes we're not very aware of it.
Right.
It's
Because they're just being themselves.
Yeah, they're just being themselves. And I've seen, and I think the tricky part is also when you're in a multicultural organization, then the definition of being transparent is a bit different, you know. Uh, it in some cases considered to be very blunt, or too
It's
much in your face, yeah, versus some other people from another country, they might just feel that if you're not transparent, then you're hiding something. so so you have to manage the suspicion as well, uh in trying to tread. I think that was the fun part of working in an organization. It was so global and such a mix, is trying to really figure out people, and it's fun because you get to see that at a human level we're all the same,
right.
uh, irrespective of which country you're from. But yes, there are cultural nuances in there, which I find interesting. So, um, a Southeast Asian person, in a very European environment, the definition of leadership is a bit different for them,
Right.
because if you're very loud and they don't like it too much, back home it's considered to be, what are you doing, why do you have to scream in my face? But reality is such that they feel that's leadership. So sometimes people from Asian countries, they suffer in the process, because they have all the right leadership traits but maybe not in that country, in that organization, so they need different kind of help itself.
It
So
sounds
this is
so complicated.
it is, isn't it? Humans, we are complicated.
You mentioned a few times about helping introverts change their narrative. Can you tell me more about what you mean about that?
um so what I've noticed is that introverts tend to self-deprecate themselves quite a lot. And they end up using all their strengths as a way to call them out as weaknesses. So if they will say something like, I can't just get up and speak about any topic, I have to be prepared. Like somebody needs to brief me what it is, so I don't have that kind of a charisma or power or confidence. I can just walk up and say whatever. I have to be prepared. Then networking is a big handicap for them. They feel that their quiet nature might make people feel that they're weird, right? And the weirdness element doesn't go away, because in the social context you just keep feeling that maybe I'm coming across as weird or arrogant or not friendly enough. um, then in big meetings where they're in a leadership position, if they're talking less and contributing less and they're spending more time in listening, they sometimes feel that they're not very effective leaders. And actually,
or taken very seriously.
or taken too seriously, or maybe the people who work with for them might feel intimidated by them. Maybe they're not too open. So that's that narrative that sits in the introvert leader's mind. And actually, if I look at these at an individual level, they're very big strengths that they have. But the part where they need to figure out is that they're not on their own in an organization. They have people who depend on them. And I think that's where they have to realize that they might like being alone and thinking on their own, but they have to bring themselves into this at the center of the conversation when it comes to people around them. That they can't get away with.
It takes
So
practice too.
it takes a lot of practice, and you have to very consciously do it, because there are people dependent on you. And that sense of responsibility has to kind of come in their heads. And Also, they have these very extreme thoughts. I've seen that if their boss tells them that, listen, you need to be more visible in the organization, you're great at your job, but people don't know what you're doing all day. So you need to, the senior stakeholders should see more of you. And the problem with that is the the instinctive reaction of the introverted leader. And even I'm also I've also made that mistake, is that we would automatically think badly about this feedback, or we will take it in the negative. That what sort of feedback is this? Are they trying to tell me to be fake? I can't be fake. And our brains will go into the extreme thing, and they're like, I that's not me. I can't push myself and be visible. That's my boss's job. He or she should give me the visibility. And I think that's another misconception we have. Why? Because you can't hand over your worth to someone else. You control that. That's your narrative to control. um and that's where I kind of get them to a point of, and it's a very common challenge that I get from my coaches. So getting them to a midway, that okay, what would visibility be for you? What should it be? Do that. And there would be small steps. Don't take the literal feedback of your line manager, but see the essence behind it.
That's
Nobody's
brilliant.
asking. Yeah, which is where you want to kind of sit at, so that the authenticity stays. The and I've seen that the best way for an introverted leader to get visibility is to get your team the visibility. Give them the visibility, and automatically
It's a win-win.
win-win. And eventually people will like, look,
Well,
our
and I
team
like what you pointed out, because what came to mind is the introvert's perception of what it means to have visibility. And then I love how you said it's having them do it in a way that's true to them and redefining what visibility means. Because
Yeah,
I would have
exactly.
jumped to the same conclusion. It's like, when am I supposed to walk door to door and say hi, and be
Exactly.
all weird?
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
Um, and I've made that mistake myself. I remember I was a very young manager and I was going on this 3 or 4 month stint to Thailand. My organization was sending me to Thailand. There was a role that I had to do over there. And one of my very senior stakeholders, before I was going there, told me that, listen, make sure you blend in. Don't try to come across as that, oh, I'll be picky about who my friend is, just be friendly and etc. And I'm like, okay, I shall do that. And I did it very literally, to the point that I felt that I was being very pushy with being extra friendly. And that was a lesson that I was so uncomfortable. But after that, I think after a month, I was like, this is not sustainable. I feel drained.
Right?
I just need to be who I am. And that worked, eventually. It works. It always works. To the extreme and then realize that, oh, wait a second, it was a mistake.
Well, yeah, there is. And just having this conversation and thinking about who I was 20 years ago and who I am today. I mean, there's still certain circumstances where, if you tell me that I need to go to some local networking function or go take dance lessons even, I feel very uncomfortable and very self-conscious. Do I do it? Yes. And it turns out it's totally okay. I realize it's like all in my head, you know, this.
Yeah, yeah, you're right, Jenny. It is in the head, and the head is very powerful.
Yeah.
um, it stops us a lot, and the first 5 minutes will always be awkward. I think we just have to accept it.
And it probably is awkward for everybody.
Everyone, yes,
It is, but we get this idea that it's just awkward for us.
exactly.
That's a good
Because,
point to make. Yeah.
because I think it has to do with the fact that for an introvert, energy behaves differently, right? Our energy goes down when we're in a big group, versus extroverts. They just suck each other's energy in and they're happy, right? And I think because we can feel it physiologically,
Yeah.
that's why for us we feel more anxious. But an extrovert, they might feel it's awkward, but physiologically they're feeling energized and we're feeling drained. And that's the difference. We just have to be aware of how we will feel and have some sort of a ritual ready for ourselves in these moments, that once the networking thing is over, when the event is over, I'm not going to stay till the end. Maybe I leave 15 minutes before, get myself a breather, walk it off. you know and
Also, something I learned, like, when not all extroverts, but the ones that are kind of like over the top, I mean, really just really have so much energy, they don't know what to do with themselves, that I had to learn how to just not be swept up with it, but just watch it like a movie so that I'm not draining myself. And I found that to be really, really helpful for me.
that's a good one. Just be entertained by them.
Yeah. Yeah. And not giving your energy away, you know? Yeah. But
Yeah, I think that's what it is.
yeah, that's amazing. I love what you do. And it is such a very specific niche, a very important one too. You're very helpful to people. What would be any last words of wisdom that you would want to leave with us today?
I think I've covered mostly. I wouldn't say that, oh, everything was full of wisdom. I think I was just stating some obvious insights that I've been able to notice. Um, I think that my main point to everyone will be is, whether you are late in your career or early in your career, um, self awareness is really important at any stage of your life. It's just that we don't have the tools to gain the self-awareness. We end up doing, um, personality quizzes, uh, to understand what type of people we are, but then we don't know what to do with it,
Right.
and how it evolves. So I think taking those moments, and asking yourself that question at different points of your life, that during this event, what have I learned about myself? Why was I triggered by it? And what have I, how do I, how do I make myself better? Or how can I bring this, turn this into a strength? I think these are questions we just have to consciously ask ourselves. Um, and I think writing it down, have to write it down. Otherwise, it's not going to get stuck in our heads. So yeah,
Right.
self-awareness, super important.
That's amazing. So is there anything you want to tell our audience about your practice and what you do and what you offer?
Sure. My website is quietthrivers.com. I don't know, Ginny, maybe I can type it and send it later on.
We'll put
Uh,
it above this interview so it stays at the top.
cool. So I'll do that. And anybody can go and see. I'm based in London, but obviously the world of online is amazing. So depending on the type of goal that you have, there are different programs that you can select. There's a program for transformative coaching, and then there's a program if you have a very specific targeted goal, then there go programs for that as well. And yeah, I would say take a look at it. You can always book a discovery call to get a feel for it. It's a 30-40 minute conversation, to see if it's for you. And if it's not for you, we'll just end up having a conversation, which is also okay. So yeah, that's that.
Well, that's beautiful. Well, I really appreciate you being here with us today. And I know there's a lot of introverts that are probably would really benefit from a conversation to understand how they can be true to themselves, but then also thrive in their work or their business. Because I know I've learned a lot over my times around the sun. So thank you, Sadaf, so much for being with us
Thank you,
today.
Jenny. Thank you so much. Take care of yourself. Have a nice weekend. It's about to come, so have a good one.